Hello everyone, welcome to this Selenium tutorial. In this tutorial, we will learn to handle the nested frames using Selenium WebDriver. So let's begin. Now, for previous session, we learned that how we can handle the frames, right? And we use this particular website, which is Internet Heroku app, right? So let me copy this one from here and let's open this into the browser. Now we need to go to the nested frames. So first we need to go to the frames here, and this is the nested frames here. Before we start working on this one, let's understand a bit more about the frames and nested frames. Then we will start, digging up the HTML here, and we'll eventually see how we can handle the nested frames. So for that, let me open this official documentation of Selenium here and see what they say about the frames. So let me open this one here and working with the iframes and frames. So in the Selenium, basically they call it as a frames. And as per Selenium, frames are now depreciated, means building a website's layout from the multiple documents on the same domain. And this is usually unlike that. Now we are working on HTML5 web apps, so maybe you might be using some older sort of the website, and it might contain the frames. And if we talk about the HTML itself, so you will find this tag iframe or frame into your HTML, and this will actually identify that this particular area is a frame. And if you want to click on any button, so what we usually learned is that we will do driver.find element by tag name button, and then we just click. But this will not work in the case of the frames, because the button actually lies inside the container, right? So here what we need to do is that we need to store the value of the variable element into the frame, and or we can directly switch to the frame, and after switching to the frame we can actually click on the button. This is the way how we can actually work with the frames. There are three ways in order to work with the frames. In our previous tutorial, we learned about the ID, right? Either we can use name or ID to identify that particular frame, right? For example, if there's a frame which names as maybe button frame, or it might have an ID called button frame. Okay, so you can use this way to switch to that particular frame. There are multiple ways. You can also use the index. If there are multiple frames, like we are talking about the nested frames, then there's indexing going on. So the first frame you will find on your HTML or a web application would be known as at the 0 index, then 1, 2, 3, 4. In this way, you can also switch to a particular frame. And if you want to leave the frame, you can just use this default content. This is what we learned in our previous session, and that's how we can work with this one. However, we still haven't learned about the nested frames. So in the nested frames, what happens is that there's a one frame is a container. Under that container there is another container, then another container. So this is how it works. So if I go here and open the paint to explain this bit more, so let me draw some here. So this is main frame, and under this frame, let me draw another frame. Let me do this one. So this is one more frame, and assume that there's one more frame inside. So this how nested frames work. So there's the main frame, which we usually call it as a parent frame, and then from parent frame we need to go to the child frame or the nested frame. So that's how this nested frame works. And one more important thing we need to know about is that about the frame set. Frame sets are basically is a collection of multiple frames. So if there are multiple frames used inside your application, then it would be most probably under the tag known as a frame set. Now let's go to the application here, this one, and here you can see apparently it looks like there are 4 sections, but this is not the case here. We need to inspect the HTML, and from HTML we need to understand what exactly is happening here. So let me click here, go to the inspect, and if I go here, you can see that there are mainly 2 frame areas, right? So if I go here and you see, if there are multiple frames, then it will lie under the frame set, right? So if I hover on this frame set, it highlights the whole complete area. Now if I go here, so it's highlighted the upper part where we have a left section, we have a middle section, we have a right section. Then if I hover the second frame, then it's highlighted the border frame. So first let's check the number of frames using the program, right? So for that I'm going here, and let me go here and let me create a new class under this automation scripts. Let me do the class here. Let's handling nested frames. To select this public static void main method and finish. And from this older code, we will be copying some basic lines from here, and we need to place those lines here. Now the first thing is that from the coding perspective, we need to identify how many frames are available. We saw through the HTML that under the frame set there are 2 frames. Okay, now we know that there would be multiple frames under the frame set. So how we can do that? So if I go back to the HTML here, and you can see that the tag is frame, right? The tag is frame. Now if I use the locator called tag name, and using the find elements by the tag name, and the tag name is frame, then it will return all the values representing that tag, right? So for that, simply what we do is that driver dot find elements, and using find elements, what we do by dot tag, and in the tag name, so what is the name of tag? It's simply a frame, right? Is a tag name, and that's how we can find the multiple frames available on our web application. Now I need to save this as into the list, because there might be more than one value. So we will be using a list web element, and we will not name it as, for example, f. F will be saved into the list web element. So list web element, and this is how we can do it. And now we need to import the web element and list as well. So now we have a complete list. What we can do is that we simply use this variable called f, and we can print this one. So system out dot println, and using into the println, let me use some text here, total names, and let me give some space here, and then let's concatenate with this variable, Okay, so that's how we usually print, right? But what we actually need is that we need a size, right? Because there might be a multiple values, so we need a size of this particular list, and we know that we can do this by variable name dot size method. Now it will print the size of this particular list. Let's run this and see what happens. So from the HTML perspective, we saw that there are two frames, right? Now program should also print there are two frames. Okay, so let me change the URL actually, and it will fail eventually because it says 0 frames. The reason is that what we need is that we need a proper URL here, and the URL is basically nested frames. Sorry for that. Let me change this one. Now we are good to go with that. Let's run this and see what happens. And I believe that it will now print the count as 2, because from HTML perspective it shows that there are 2, right? And we see this, the total frames equals to 2. Now first we will try to handle the first frame, because that's a bit easier to do. The reason is that, let me, if I close this one as well, and if I go to this particular website, now these are 2 frames, and if I explore this first frame, you will see that under this frame there is another frame, right? There's document, then under document there's another frame set. This means that we have a frame, under that frame we have a frame set, and under that frame set we have these 3 frames. Now you might have a question that when we are trying to take the count of the frame, it says only 2, but now I am showing you that there are 5 frames. The reason is that on it's, as we talked, it's a container. Until unless I don't traverse to this particular area, I won't be able to count these ones. This is the problem. Now if I hover on this one, it says left, right, middle accordingly, right? So this is a bit tricky. We will see this one, but if I go here, let me close this one here, and this is the second frame. So first try to automate this one, and then we will see how we can use or handle the above nested frame set and the frames. So go here, and in the similar way, before we handle the bottom frame, we can also count the frame set. So on the upper level is 1 frame set, right? So you can use in a similar way. Now what I need to do is that web, because we need to find, right, web element, and I'm naming it as default name. Okay, so it would be easier for us, and driver dot find element by dot. So right now I will be using the name. Okay, first name here is that the name would be, let me go here and let's try out the find out. So the first we need to go to the frame set actually, and the name is basically, if I go here and select the selector sub, so this is the main thing, this is the main frame, right? So first I need to go to the main frame, and then I can use this one. And the second way around is that I can directly go to the first or the second frame, right? So as we learned that, if we talk about this HTML here, so this frame is on the zeros index, right? And this one is on the one index. So I can easily call this one using the index. Now, instead of using a name, let me remove this line from here. Let's do it in a simple way. Okay. So driver dot switch to dot frame, and index is 1, and that's good. So we can directly jump into the frame having index 1, right, which is the bottom one. Now I'm taking a string here so that we can print the value in order to see either we are actually in the correct frame or not. So for that, what I'm doing is that string bottom frame equals to driver dot find dot elements and by dot tag name, and the tag name here would be, if I go here and inspect this button specifically, so you can see the tag is body. So I can use this tag name as a body because right now we are under this frame, right? So for that, what I'll do is that simply I will say if the tag name is body here, tag name is body here, this, and okay. But what we see is that it says some error because we are saving it to the string. Why I was doing this? The reason is that this is a text and text needs to be saved into the string. So before I close this one, what I'll say is that get text. This is the way to save the value. So once the value has been saved, then system dot out dot println, and in println we would be just passing this string variable, right? Copy this one and save this one. Okay, and now let's run this and see what happens. Now it should switch to the frame 1, which is the bottom, and print the word bottom here. So yes, first total number of frames 2, then bottom has been printed. So this was pretty much easier because we directly switched to the frame because we knew from the HTML that it's on the index 1, and then we performed our action. Now the difficult thing is regarding the upper top frames. So for that, first I need to, now actually I am inside this container frame. I need to go out of this and I need to go to the parent frame first, because it's just like, coming out of small box to the main box. Okay, from small container to the main container. So that's what we need to do. So driver dot switch to dot, we have this method called parent frame. So it will switch to the parent frame, and from parent frame now we can switch to the top frame and then left frame. So driver dot switch to dot frame, and using the name we can use this one. Okay, so if I go here into the HTML, so let me go this one. So the main frame is basically frame underscore top. This is the name, right? We need to copy this one and we need to provide this one here. This is the frame and we need to import this one, and This is the frame. Okay, now once we are in the top frame here, this one, now we are on this level. Okay, but still what we need to do is that we need to go to, for example, this left one, or maybe this middle one, right? Again, what we need to do, we simply write diver dot switch to dot frame, and here the frame name is basically, let me talk about, if let's go with this left one, inspect this one, and here the name of the frame is frame dash left. Let me copy this one from here and paste it here. Put the double quotes here. Now we are under this particular box. This is the box. Now we have reached to this box. Now we can perform our action on this one. I will use the same way. In the same way, we just gonna print this particular text, and I'll copy these two lines from here and we'll paste it here, and let me name this as name it as left frame. Okay, and left frame needs to be printed here. Now because we are under this frame, rest of the code will remain same. We just need to change the string name, and we need to pass this string variable here. Okay, that's what we need to do. Now save this one and run this as well and see what happens. Okay, now first it will print total frames 2, then bottom, then now it will print the left. So total frames 2, bottom and left. Now if I need to go to the particular frame which is the right or maybe middle, then again I need to switch to the parent, then from parent, or the second option is that I can use a default context which might take you somewhere here or here, and from there you can actually go to this particular frame. So now what I'll do is that, let me now, because we have done our script, but we need to come out of the frames so that we can work on different elements present on our web application. Right? Simply driver dot switch to, and switch to dot, we have this default context, and that's it. Now you're out of that, then we will close our driver using driver dot quit. Okay. Save this one and let's run this one and see. So that's actually how we can handle the different frames. So total frames, again, bottom and left. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you like our content, then do like, comment, share and subscribe our channel. Once again, thank you so much and see you in the next tutorial.